The old coot here, coming back at you with another exciting video. I think you know what I'm making today. Yes, sourdough bread. I'm going to show you all how to know when to take it out of the oven. So I've been at a steady 465 degrees convention oven. I'm on the lower oven, right? The bigger oven in the middle rack. And what we're looking for is a temperature of around 210 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you're somewhere like 205, it's going to be a little more moist, let's say, and a little more doughier. If you're at 210, to me, that's like the perfect temperature. If you're at 215, you're going to be somewhere like on the drier side. But this is the right, correct way that I use anyway, just to make sure. And then what I do is after I take the temperature, let's say I hit 210, I still do the wooden skewer thing, right? This is just a bamboo skewer, just to make sure that it's not doughy or anything on the inside. So here we go. We're going to actually test this. And I've already taken one temperature. I was just under, so now I let it go for a little longer. By the way, in case you're curious, it's give or take around 40 to 45 minutes with this particular oven. I think this is a KitchenAid. Yeah, this is a KitchenAid double oven. So give or take around 45 minutes at 465 on the middle rack Fahrenheit. Works for me in terms of temperature, but the only way to really know what's going on with the dough or with the bread is to actually measure the temperature on the inside. So here we go. So we're going to go ahead and do this. Wait, okay. So let's see if I can switch hands here. So here's my thermometer, right? Here's the bread. I'm just going to go ahead and pull this out real quick. And look at how beautiful they turned out. By the way, I did put a little ramekin in there with some water just to help with the steam and just to help with the height, the crusting of the outside. And if you like it darker, just let it go longer. Don't futz with the temperature, because otherwise then you'll mess up the inside. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and probe. Let's see if I can get a good reading in there. Sometimes it's hard to find a place to stick it, literally. Okay, there we go. So I'm in, and I hit 209. So I'm just barely there. To me, that's good enough. 209 is kind of what I'll call it. So I'm going to pull this out and see how it came out relatively clean. That's kind of how I know that the inside's going to be good, or at least good enough for me. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get my skewer, right? Put it in that same hole and just put it in. Let it sit for a second and then pull it out. And again, look at that, perfectly clean. There's no residue. There's nothing sticking to it. There's no dough on the stick itself. So this, to me, in my opinion, is ready to go ahead and take out. So let me pause the video and I'll take it out. Okay, and we're back. So I pushed the rack back in, closing this. Okay, so now I can shut off my oven. Now here's the most crucial thing when making bread is you can either flip these upside down, right? Just so that gravity doesn't pull everything back down, right? It has a chance to, like, a good technical term would be to sponge it up. Let me see if I can flip these. I know extremely hot and hard to do with one hand. But see, the bottoms are good. You got a little bit of darkening there, and I think that's just from the residual burnt flour that's on this tray that I'm using, or this pan that I'm using. Be careful, because that's going to be extremely hot as well, whatever water's left in there. I think there's just a little bit of water left. But that's just a regular old, you know, oven-safe ramekin. I'll try to put links down below in the description, also on my storefront. So I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm just going to turn it upside down. And what I'm checking for here is I want to hear that hollow sound. So I'm just going to tap it with my finger. Just so you can all hear what it should sound like. It should be a thudsy tap, like a deep, cavernous kind of a tap. So let me go ahead and tap it again. And I'll try to hold the microphone close just so you can hear what it sounds like, what it should sound like when you take it out of the oven. So I'm just tapping with the tip of my fingernail. That to me is the perfect sound. So The bread came out nice. It's nice and toasty. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let this sit for at least, I know it sounds hard, but I'm going to let this sit for at least 2 hours. 2 hours before cutting it open or trying it or tasting it. The way I know that it's done, right, that I don't have to like throw it back in the oven, reheat the oven, is because we did the temperature test. So 210 degrees Fahrenheit, whatever that translates into Celsius if you're, you know, watching from abroad or whatever, or used to that system. But 210, and look at how clean the end of that, you know, probe is for the thermometer. This happens to be a Thermo Pro, and I'll put a link to this down below in the description as well for all of your, you know, temperature taking baking needs, that kind of vibe. You get the idea. This has been a workhorse for me, and this is a great company. I know they've been in contact with me before, and they really are a great company. They make good quality products. You kind of get the idea. And then for extra backup, just to make sure that everything was okay, remember I put the bamboo stick in there, or the skewer, and put it in that same hole just to make sure that there's nothing on there. And as you can see, I know it's kind of hard to grab focus here, but as you can see, there's absolutely like very minimal, see that little, there's like 1 or 2 little particles there. That's totally fine. But what you don't want is you don't want to pull this out and then it be just covered in like, you know, a layer of dough or doughy dough. That's how you know that you're underdone and you need to let it go longer. Time is going to help you with the doneness more than cranking up the temperature, because if you crank up the temperature, all that's going to happen is then you're going to start burning your bread, like literally. So I think we're at a point here where I can kind of move this around, but you kind of get the idea. To me, that's a good, nice color of sourdough. You know, if you want it darker, you could just let it go like maybe another 5 more minutes, and then you'll kind of get this color all the way around. But just know that the darker the outside, the more done the inside's going to be. So anyways, stay tuned. I'm going to let these stay upside down like this for a little bit, at least about, you know, a couple hours or so, and just let this all cool down. I'm not going to touch that because that is extremely hot. There's just a little bit of water left. I filled it up about, I'd say about like halfway. And what the water does is, as it's cooking in the oven at 465 Fahrenheit for give or take around 45 minutes or so, what the water does is the water evaporates into the oven and kind of helps to create this kind of moist environment. And what that does is it helps to develop that crunchy crust on the outside. And it also, I think it also adds a little bit to the color, right? So you get this nice color here, but look at how gorgeous that color is of the outside of the sourdough. The battens, right? The bread battens, these are unlined. That's just the way I do it. If you happen to, I'll put some links down below. I'll see what I can find. But if you happen to find some of these that do have the liners, that's totally fine. I just don't want to deal with the washing them, the washing of the liners and it's basically like a cloth kind of shower, you know, shower cap. That's basically what they are. And then you don't really know what you're getting, you know, so I just kind of keep them unlined, and I just really flour them up good. So as you can see all there's that residual flour that's been in there, like using. What you could do as well is you could get like a little, you know, every once in a while, dry, like completely dry. You can just use like a bristle brush and just scrape out that excess flour. I kind of leave it in there because it just creates a seal of all those little pores in there so that the dough doesn't stick too much when I'm then ready to flip these over and put the dough onto the baking rack or the cookie sheet, whatever you want to call it. This one I've had for years. I don't even know who makes this anymore, but I'll put some links to the, you know, kind of like equivalents if you want like a cookie sheet or whatever to kind of look into to bake your bread on. But another tip or trick is flour the heck out of it. That all this dark, you know, black stuff here, this burnt on black, that's flour on top of flour on top of flour that's been in the oven at 460. And this is the only thing, like baking bread is the only thing I use this rack or whatever you want to call this thing is. So it's flour on top of flour, and I never wash this thing. I just let it go. So the next time I put more bread on here, I might put the bread like at a different part of the rack or whatever. But the flour, like see that brown flour there, that I might brush off, like this little excess here. So now we're kind of a little bit better cool to the touch. But this I might brush off. But basically it's flour on top of flour on top of flour. That's what helps to keep the bread from sticking. The first few times that you use it or do it, you know, you might get some stickage, but it's totally fine. Just as part of the learning process, you kind of get the idea. Anyways, with that being said, I'll put links down below in the description and also in the comments, and I'll also put links to whatever I can find. The ramekin, the bread battens, you kind of get the idea, down in the description, in the comment section, and also on my Amazon storefront. Make sure to check that out. With that being said, I am the Old Coot. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and I will catch you all on the next exciting video.